Hi everyone, you're welcome back to my channel. Thank you for stopping right here today. So in today's tutorial, I'll be quickly sharing with you all how to sew this milkmaid underburst gown with a basque gathered waistline. So if this sounds like something you're interested in learning how to do, continue watching and please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. So without much ado, I'm just going to get started with today's tutorial.
Our hearts beat to the city streets.
So this is basically the second part of this tutorial. So the first part, which is the drafting part of this beautiful gown, I already have it uploaded on the channel. So in this particular one, we'll be assembling all of this drafted piece together. So I'd advise you please go watch that out before you come back to watch this one, so you understand every step and everything I did right here. Okay, so now I've gone ahead now to draft for the front and the back part of my gown, and I'm going to go ahead now to cut out on my fabric. So the white crepe I'm working with will be for the cup part and the ankara will be for the lower part of my dress. So I'm going to keep the ankara one side and work on my crepe, because this my cup, I'll be slashing it and also spreading it on this my white. So I'm going to get started now by slashing this after I've gone ahead to draft in the first tutorial. So after slashing this all through, I'm just going to use my straight ruler and draw a line across, a very straight line on my fabric. So this straight line I drew right here is going to be my guide for me to place all these my patterns on it, right? So I'm going to pick the first one, which is number 1, and I'm going to ensure that that line sits exactly on the line which I marked on my fabric. So I'm going to make sure that that line, which is the third line under my paper, aligns on this line I drew right here on my fabric. I hope you understand. So I'm going to spread this out by my desired inch, and I decided to spread out by 2 inches. Okay, so the spaces I have in between here is 2 inches. You can decide to spread by extra inches, or you can as well use the same inches I used, or you can use even below that, but the max the minimum inches you should be 1 inch. Okay, so I placed my number 2 and I'm going to mark 2 inches from my number 2, and you can see I also made sure that the line on my paper aligned with the one on my fabric, right? So I placed my number 3. So this is how I'm going to continue doing this until I get to the 6th one, because these patterns I have here are 6 in numbers. Okay, after that, now I'm just simply going to pin this properly, because you wouldn't want this to be shifting and at the end of the day you don't get it right. Okay, so after that I'm just simply going to mark half of an inch at the base and at the top part of this cup part of my gown, and just like that you follow the shape and cut out. And please do note that you're not meant to add any stitching allowance at your armhole area. Okay, so you can see I follow the shape and cut out, and the next thing is to also cut out on this my duplicates by also adding half of an inch at the base and at the top part. I didn't add to the side because I already had my stitching allowance while I was drafting. Okay, so I'll go ahead now cut out for the ankara part of my gown. So right here you can see what I have. I went ahead to cut out for the cup part and also the duplicate, and also did the same thing for the back. And for the ankara part of this my gown, I also cut it out and also added half of an inch sewing allowance at the top and at the base. I didn't add to the side or to the zipper area because it's not needed. I already did that when I was drafting. So you can see clearly right here the parts where I added my stitching allowance. Okay, so right now I'm going to be working on the cup before I will go ahead now to work for the other body parts of my gown. So I'm simply going to unpin this paper I have on my cup part of my gown. So I'm going to take it to one side. So I'll open this up so you see what it looks like, and I'm simply going to run a stitch, a gather stitch all around at the top part, ending at that point. So I've gone ahead to do that, and this is what I have. So you all know that while you run a gather stitch on your fabric, you have to leave like excesses, like your ropes at the sides, and it's going to be 2. So you're just going to take one of the ropes and pull. You're not going to pull the 2 ropes or the thread at the same time, if not it's going to cut. So I'm just simply going to get my duplicate, because it's going to serve as the accurate or right measurement for my cup, okay, because I didn't alter it. So what I'll be doing right here is, as I am pulling on my thread, I will be checking if it aligns with my duplicate, because that was the actual size of my cup before I went ahead to slash and spread. I hope you understand, right? So take one thread and pull. You don't pull the two at the same time. So when you pull the one at the top part, you pull a little bit and you put the one at the underneath your fabric. So that was what I did, and you don't pull too hard so it doesn't cut. So as I was doing this, I had one part of this my fabric pinned to the other duplicate to make sure that it's of the same size before I stop pulling, right? So that's the essence of your duplicate. So right now it's aligned at the two armhole area at the top part right there, and I simply went ahead to pin this down. So as you're pinning, please ensure you bring out the ruffles, because you're going to have these ruffles that will be going inside on its own. So ensure that you bring it out, okay, as you are pinning this your fabric to your duplicate, right? So after I must have achieved that, now I'm going ahead now to use a normal stitch to stitch this like this with 1/2 inch. So I'm not going to touch the armhole area, okay? So now I've gone ahead to do that, and you can see what I have right here. This is the wrong side, so I'll flip this now to the right side. So on this right side now, I'm simply going to also run a gather stitch on this other side, okay? I'm not doing this on my duplicates, please. I'm doing this on the actual fabric I'm working with. You can see right here. So I'm going to run a gather stitch all around, and I'm also going to start pulling after running that gather stitch. Take up one of the threads and pull. Later you put the other one. Do it at the two sides, and as you are doing this, you'll be measuring it with your duplicate so that you see that it actually aligns. So I also went ahead to pin for the middle part first, because I don't want my folds or my ruffles to be fuller on one part and empty on the other part, okay? So I went ahead to pin this on one part of my cup, and I'll make sure that it aligns with my duplicates, okay? So just watch carefully what I'm doing. Although this may take little of your time, just little, but just exercise some patience and achieve exactly what you want. So I went ahead to continue doing this and make sure that the ruffles or the gathers I'm making right here aligns with the duplicates, okay? So you all know what I'm calling duplicate. That's the other fabric, right? So I'm done now pinning for one side, which aligned, and I'll go ahead to pin for the other part of the cup. And right now is almost aligning, and right here it has aligned properly, as you can see. So I pinned this. You can see all the pins I have from the beginning to the other side. So I'm going to run a normal stitch now, okay? So I'm just going to run a normal stitch to hold this in place. So while you do this, please do ensure that you top stitch on your duplicate. So I didn't top stitch on my duplicates before this, and it was a bit hard for me to top stitch at this point. So by the time you join your duplicate to your fabric, please top stitch on your duplicates, because if you use this my method, it's going to be actually difficult for you, okay? So now after doing all of that, now I flip this to the right side. This is what I have. So I'm going to get the front part of my gown. I'm going to unpin or separate my pattern paper from my fabric and open this up. So I face this right side, as you can see, and I'm going to get my cup part of my gown. So I'm going to pin this first on that part, right side facing each other, as you can see clearly right here in this video. So I'm going to make sure that that middle point aligns properly, and I'm going to pin right sides facing each other all the way around this cup part. I hope you can see what I'm doing here very well. So I'm going to pin all the way at the both sides, right sides, okay? Take note of that. So you can see that this is perfectly aligned. That is the essence of having a duplicate, because this duplicate will serve as your guide in order for you to achieve the exact shape and size of your actual cup, okay? So I've pinned for one side and you can see what it looks like. So I'm going to pin for the other side. You can see clearly that this is right sides facing each other. That's how I'm pinning this. Okay, so after pinning, I'm going to follow that shape now and stitch all the way around using just 1/2 inch. And after stitching, this is what I have, as you can see right here. So what I'm cutting off here is actually the gather stitch thread. I just wanted to remove it so that my dress can be free, because it was showing at the top of my dress. Okay, so after removing all of that, this is what I have, as you can see right here. This is looking nice already. So I'll flip this now to the back to fix my lining piece, right? So I'd advise, if you're working with a white fabric, please work with a white lining and not black. Okay, so now I'm going to pin this way. So I'm going to bring the wrong side, or the rough part of this of my fabric or my piece, and I'm going to pin it together with my lining. We all know that a lining piece doesn't have front part and the right side, sorry, and the wrong side. So I just chose one side and I'm pinning it this way. So you can see that the pins I'm making right here are facing the camera. By the time I flip my lining over, it's going to cover up those rough edges. So you can see right here, right? So before you do that, you have to actually notch this piece all around, especially on that part where I'm notching at the moment. Okay, so after notching this, you're going to go ahead to repeat exactly what I did and stitch all around on that cup part. And after stitching, this is what I have. So after stitching, you realize that you have your cup part in between your lining and your fabric, and that is exactly the way it's meant to be, so you know you got it right. So I cut off those excesses right there, so that by the time I iron this, it can be very flat enough. So I'll flip this now to the front part, forcing out that middle part, because it's going to be a bit inside, so you're going to force it out. And this is what I have. So I actually love the outcome of this gown, honestly speaking. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to actually work for the back part of my gown. So I was just showing what the front part looks like right here. So here's the back part of my gown. I have the upper part, which I labeled as a cup as well, and also the Ankara part. So I'll pin this and arrange this properly. So before I proceed to do anything, I will have to hem the top part of my back cup. Okay, because I already added 1/2 inch while I was cutting for stitching or for hemming. Okay, let's just say for hemming. So after hemming this, I will now bring this back and place this properly on my fabric. So you're going to place the right side of your cup part on your Ankara piece, making sure that the two zipper parts are lined. Okay, so the armhole part will be facing the other side and the zipper part will be facing the middle of your dress. Okay, and the next thing is to now bring my lining piece and cover this up and place it exactly the way the shape is. So you can see also that my cup part is in between my lining piece and my fabric. So I'll pin this down at that point so it doesn't shift, and after that I'll go ahead and stitch up that part using 1/2 inch. And after stitching, I'll simply go ahead and iron both the front part and the back part of this my gown. So I've ironed this down, and you can see that the shape on the milkmaid parts actually changed, and I actually have this stain on my white because I ironed directly on my white fabric. So please, while ironing, get a white piece and place on your white fabric and iron. Okay, so I flip this now, you can see what it looks like, and be careful while ironing as well, please. So I cut out this piece I'll be using for the gathers effect on my gown. So for the width, I have 14 inches, and for the length, I had a yard plus 22 inches. That is 36 is a yard plus 22 inches. Okay, it's not 2 yards. So if you want to achieve a very fuller effect on your gathers, please go ahead and make use of about 2.5 yards or 3 yards. Okay, so I brought this piece together and notched the middle, and I'm going to run a gather stitch at that top part. As you can see right here, I've gone ahead to do that. And the next thing I'm going to do is to bring that middle part I notched, and I'm going to pin it to that pointy part on this my gown. Okay, so I'll pin it right there, and I'll get the edge or the end of my fabric, and I'm going to pin it to the other end of my gown like this at the base. And I'll also do the same for the two sides. So by the time I must have achieved this, the next thing I will do is to make sure that these gathers actually aligns with this part where I pin them. It's not going to exceed, so that we have the same effect on the two parts. Okay, so like I said, only pull on one row, but don't pull too hard. When you pull the other one underneath. Okay, so I will make sure I pull this and gather this on all of these parts so that it fits, and also pin this down. Okay, so by the time I do this, I'm going to stitch from one end, from the middle part to one end. Okay, so that I can so that the basque can be very pronounced and be visible, right? So I already stitched one side, which I came to show you all, but I'm yet to stitch the other side because I just pinned it down. So you can see it right here. So I'll simply go ahead now to pin for the other side, to stitch for the other side. So after stitching, this is what I have, and I really loved the combination and the color of the fabric I used right here. So I'm going to be working for the back part of my gown right now. I've already fixed my zipper so that I can bring this as a one piece, so that I can achieve what I want. And you can see the proper alignment I have right here on the cup area, right? So the same amount of fabric I had for the front is the same I had for this my back piece. So the length is 14 inches and the wideness is 14 inches and the length is a yard and 22 inches. I also ran a gather stitch across on this piece, and I'm also going to arrange it the same way I did for the front part of my gown. Okay, so I already told you how many yards to use if you want a fuller effect on your gathers, but it was quite a pity that my fabric wasn't even enough even for the type of sleeve I wanted to fix on this my gown, right? So that aside, now I'll go ahead now to make sure that this my gown aligns properly on the armhole area. And I'm also going to stitch the sides using 1 inch because that was the stitching allowance I left for this gown, right? So now after joining, this is what I have. So I'm going to cut out a strap because I want this my sleeve to be at the top of my shoulder. So remember that what we had from our shoulder to the part we cut off when we came up by 3/4 inch from our chest line was 6 3/4.1. So on this unfold like this, I'm going to measure out 6 3/4.1, and for the wideness I cut out 4 inches. So by the time I fold like this, I had 2 inches. So I went ahead now to also trim this off. So you're going to get your gown, and you're going to fix this the exact way you fix your strap. Okay, so it was quite unfortunate that my camera stopped. Honestly speaking, I had no idea up to this moment while I was editing this video, but I believe that we all know how to fix a strap to our dress. So that is just simply what you do when you fix this to the armhole part of your gown. You now go ahead and fix any sleeve of your choice all around it, and that is all for your gown. Your gown will really come out looking nice. Okay, so from that point right there, that's where you fix, making sure that the rough parts is facing the armhole, so by the time you fix your sleeve, it cover up everything. So I did all of that, and this is what I have. But if you don't really know how to go about this, you can as well tell me. I'll make a separate tutorial on that, I mean for the sleeve part. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. Please don't forget to subscribe my channel if you're yet to do so. And to all my subscribers, thank you all a whole lot. I really appreciate and love you guys a lot. And to some other time, see you.